Hello guys, in today's episode, from our trees. I used to walk around with the strong belief that marijuana was a miracle plant. I sincerely didn't see any negative points to smoking it, and anybody that rallied against marijuana use came across as hopelessly uninformed and backwards to me. Then one day I was browsing an elder tree's post about how marijuana had helped some guy's life, and buried among the replies was this 3-paragraph essay that had only received a couple of upvotes. It was by this guy, roughly in his mid-50s, who explained how he loved smoking weed. He smoked it all day, every day. He lived somewhere in Montana, in a little house, and he had all the basic things he needed in life. The thing was, he felt he had done nothing exceptional in life. He said marijuana made him content with everything, but he felt that if he hadn't smoked as much and if he had truly gone out and worked for something, he might have achieved more of his true potential. He wasn't unhappy, but he always knew he had settled for mediocrity. Now, I'm doing a poor job of communicating his exact message, but it scared me to the core. I knew that I too would come home after classes, or work, and would plan to spend time writing my fiction or learning something new, but instead would end up high on my couch watching 3 episodes of some arbitrary show on Netflix. So I reprioritized. I still smoke, but only if I know I've done enough work to justify it. I want to look back on my youth and life and know that I tapped into my true potential, that I made the most of it. I don't want to end up like that guy, mid-50s, living in a cabin, outwardly content, but inwardly unfulfilled. Today you, tomorrow me. Just about every time I see someone I stop. I kind of got out of the habit in the last couple of years. Moved to a big city and all that. My girlfriend wasn't too stoked on the practice. Then some shit happened to me that changed me, and I am back to offering rides habitually. If you would indulge me, it is long story and has almost nothing to do with hitchhiking other than happening on a road. This past year one have had 3 instances of car trouble. A blowout on a freeway, a bunch of blown fuses and an out of gas situation. All of them were while driving other people's cars, which, for some reason, makes it worse on an emotional level. It makes it worse on a practical level as well. What with the fact that I carry things like a jack and extra fuses in my car, and know enough not to park, facing downhill, on a steep incline with less than a gallon of fuel. Anyway, each of these times this shit happened, I was disgusted with how people would not bother to help me. I spent hours on the side of the freeway waiting, watching roadside assistance vehicles blow past me, for AAA to show. The 4 gas stations I asked for a gas can had told me that they couldn't loan them out for my safety, but I could buy a really shitty 1-gallon one with no cap for $15. It was enough, each time, to make you say shit like this country is going to hell in a handbasket. But you know who came to my rescue all 3 times? Immigrants. Mexican immigrants. None of them spoke a lick of the language. But one of those dudes had a profound effect on me. He was the guy that stopped to help me with a blowout with his whole family of 6 in tow. I was on the side of the road for close to 4 hours. Big Jeep, blown rear tire, had a spare but no jack. I had signs in the windows of the car, big signs that said need a jack and offered money. No dice. Right as I am about to give up and just hitch out there, a van pulls over and dude bounds out. He sizes the situation up and calls for his youngest daughter who speaks English. He conveys through her that he has a jack but it is too small for the Jeep, so we will need to brace it. He produces a saw from the van and cuts a log out of a downed tree on the side of the road. We rolled it over, put his jack on top, and bam, in business. I start taking the wheel off and, if you can believe it, I broke his tire iron. It was one of those collapsible ones and I wasn't careful and I snapped the head I needed clean off. Fuck. No worries. He runs to the van, gives it to his wife, and she is gone in a flash, down the road to buy a tire iron. She is back in 15 minutes. We finish the job with a little sweat and cussing. Stupid log was starting to give, and I am a very happy man. We are both filthy and sweaty. The wife produces a large water jug for us to wash our hands in. I tried to put a 20 in the man's hand but he wouldn't take it, so I instead gave it to his wife as quietly as I could. I thanked them up one side and down the other. I asked the little girl where they lived, thinking maybe I could send them a gift for being so awesome. She says they live in Mexico. They are here so mommy and daddy can pick peaches for the next few weeks. After that they are going to pick cherries then go back home. She asks if I have had lunch, and when I told her no, she gave me a tamale from their cooler, the best fucking tamale I have ever had. So, to clarify, a family that is undoubtedly poorer than you, me, and just about everyone else on that stretch of road, working on a seasonal basis where time is money, took an hour or two out of their day to help some strange dude on the side of the road when people in tow trucks were just passing me by. Wow, but we aren't done yet. I thank them again and walk back to my car and open the foil on a tamale cause I am starving at this point, and what do I find inside? My fucking $20 bill. I whirl around and run up to the van, and the guy rolls his window down. He sees the $20 in my hand and just shaking his head no, like he won't take it. All I can think to say is poor favor, poor favor, poor favor with my hands out. Dude just smiles, shakes his head and, with what looked like great concentration, tried his hardest to speak to me in English. Today you, tomorrow me. Rolled up his window, drove away, his daughter waving to me in the rear view. I sat in my car eating the best fucking tamale of all time, and I just cried, like a little girl. It has been a rough year and nothing has broke my way. This was so out of left field I just couldn't deal. In the 5 months since, I have changed a couple of tires, given a few rides to gas stations, and, once, went 50 miles out of my way to get a girl to an airport. I won't accept money. Every time I tell them the same thing when we are through. Today you, tomorrow me. I'm really hoping someone can find this for me, because I've been searching for this thread ever since I've read it, but mine are 2 stories from what I believe were the same thread. They were about poop. I'm going to butcher it, so I hope someone finds the link, but story 1 is basically about some guy who works in an office with cubicles on each side of a walkway, and at the end of the walkway, after like 6 rows, is the only bathroom there. He apparently had some Mexican food at lunch that wasn't sitting right, so he went to the bathroom, and unexpectedly destroyed it with his bowel movements. The wettest, fireborne shit he's ever done. Anyway, somehow he manages to flush it down the toilet and walk back to his desk, hoping that the smell isn't bad enough and he can play it cool the rest of the day without having another accident. What happens instead is the toilet overflows, and a river of shit and toilet water flow down the little pathway in between each cubicle before finally reaching the end row, where he sits, where one of his turns attached to a little boat-like toilet paper sails up to him as if to say hi. He apparently leaves the office after that and just never ends up going back. Story number 2 is my favorite, and I really wish I can find. It involves some guy who drove through the desert to meet up with his friends for lunch at some Mexican restaurant on the beach or something. He has a like 3-hour drive ahead of him, so he tries to go to the bathroom before he leaves, but nothing ends up happening. So he just heads on his way. Halfway through the isolated desert, between someplace and nowhere, suddenly his shit kicks in, full blast. He's in so much pain trying to hold it in, while driving, while keeping his sanity, that he just pulls his car to the side of the room and jumps out the door, running into the desert, and pulls down his pants as his foul waste propels out of his ass, screaming out something like, "Oh Jesus WHY?" The only problem is this doesn't stop, and the smell of it plus the food starts making him sick, so he ends up projectile vomiting at the same time. After like 5 minutes of continual vomiting, shitting, he gets up, clothes ruined, and looks at the mess he made, seeing the mix of both messes extending at least 3-4 feet in each direction. When he walks back to his car, he sees a state trooper pulled over next to his car, who apparently had witnessed most of the event, and offers him a change of clothes or a towel or something. Someone please help me find these stories. They're from maybe 3-4 years ago during a summer I worked as an intern.